Hello fellow modelers, we achieved a milestone, 500,000 subscribers. Thank you for your huge support. I had a lot of requests for this, so the first bonus video is going to be walk around my workplace. I have a separate room for my models, and if you recognize a warning sign reference, congratulations. And here is my kingdom. Only sorry for the mess on the table. As you can see, new projects are in the progress. However, for the presentation, this is much better. As you can see, I have a video camera recorder in front of me. It is a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm already used to it. I made the holder from old tripod and attach it to the table, so it is telescopic if I need wider shots. However, the area for recording is very small. That is the main reason why I'm making small 72 scale planes and heavy models. So if you want to see some 32 scale jet fighter, then I would need to rent a larger apartment. Here I have a lot of paintbrushes for painting Warhammer miniatures, but also models which you can see in the videos. I prefer paintbrushes with natural hairs, but also for some techniques are good synthetic fibers. And good is also own sanding sticks or nail files. I use them primarily for aircraft models, but it could be handy also for removing mold lines. Inside the third pencil holder I have some cheap and old brushes for messy work like applying putty or glue. And handy is tablet. I have their photo recommendation for models and it is easily accessible. Also important are speakers. I highly recommend listening to some audiobooks or podcast instead of music. So you can learn meanwhile making models, like a lot of interesting informations about ancient Rome or so. I recently upgraded my spraying box. I struggled with a space on the table, so the perfect solution is kitchen fume extractor. I have the only problem with a ventilation hose and the roof window. So I made a wooden ending and added extra ventilator to increase airflow. My favorite tool is Proxon grinder. The only problem is that it has a quite large minimal RPM, something like 5000 per minute. So you mostly melt plastic only with the heat from friction. And that is not nice. So I made the second power motor controller, which allows run from almost 0 to 4000 RPM. I bought this one from eBay for $2 or $3 and I added the link to the video description if you want to make something similar. Another handy feature is this spraying bottle for residual airbrush color or thinner. Okay, now the airbrushes. A lot of people are asking about good and reliable airbrush. I mostly recommend Harder und Steinbeck Evolution. I know, I have Infinity, but the only difference is needle lock, which I never used. Therefore Evolution, which is cheaper. However, for some dirty work like primers, I have a cheap Fengda PD130 with a 0.4mm nozzle. If you replace the rubber sealings and make some other improvements like a glue nozzle, you can easily achieve the same result as with an Infinity. And my oldest airbrush is Hansa 581 with a 0.2mm nozzle. I use it primarily for metallic or silver paints, because it is quite tricky to clean silver particles properly. You mostly do not want metallic particles on your plain camouflage. And I received from Model Emporium for testing new airbrushes made by Mr. Hobby some time ago. However, I don't have a space for them, so I have them still in boxes. For example, I used the airbrush with a trigger for Ferrari P4, so you already saw some in action. Last but not least, air hose connection to compressor. I have a splitter for 3 airbrushes, and I use garden hose to connect all to the compressor. The compressor is Fengda AS186A. I have this machine already 3 years and it's working without problems. It's only essential. Do not forget to drain the condensed water once in a while, which is accumulated in the pressure vessel. It has automatic pressure switch, so the motor does not run all the time, only when is needed. so I mostly recommend this compressor if someone is asking for advice. Maybe you are asking yourself, where are all the tools and paints? I like minimalism, so I do not have organizers with paints on table or walls, and simply have everything what I need in the drawers and nicely hidden. The table has 8 of them, so I have relatively a lot of storage space. So let's look what I have. You already know that I like oil paints, so I use primarily Abteilung and Umton. When necessary for painting are some masking tapes. And fast drying and matte effect thinners for oil paints. Very important are these mixing paint cups. It is simply a small portion of milk into coffee. You can buy a large pack of 20 or 100 pieces for $1 or $2 or so. I do not drink a lot of coffee, but I simply add more milk. I usually need for more color camouflages a lot of them, so it is good to create a stock. Handy are of course plastic clamps or cloth packs if you want to fix wings or fuselage. Black foam for weathering stains, and I have some hypodermic needles and syringes of different diameters. In the second drawer I have a stuff like glues, decals, chemicals, different types of putty and of course often used weathering products. In the back section I have different thinners for lacquer, enamel and acrylic paints, and bottles with pre-diluted primers and varnishes. I highly recommend to pre-dilute the primers and varnishes, because otherwise it is painful to test proper thinning ratio all the time. Also, you don't need to mess with mixing cups and other tools. The third drawer is a little bit overloaded with paints for airbrush, but this one is my favorite. As you can see, I have here primarily acrylic lacquer Tamiya paints, but also for cars, lacquer Mr. Color, but as well as transparent enamel paints. Behind all of this, I have a section for silver and metallic paints. I tested a lot of products because I needed primarily for cars and motorcycle a nice metallic finish for different materials. I have some Mr. Color, Alcat and AK Extreme Metal paints. So therefore I have in the front colors which I use often, so I can find them quickly and comfortably. I almost forget, I also have a lot of AK Real colors. I use these paints often because you can mix them with a Tamiya without problems. I only do not have a space for more bottles, so they are on the floor. The fourth last drawer on the left side. I have here primarily the most commonly used things, like paper napkins, toothpicks, gloves, gloss paper for super glue application and cotton swabs. In the back section I have sandpapers and sponges of different grades. I bought Proficar finishing sandpapers Super Silex 2 weeks ago. They are perfect and I highly recommend. They are made from fabric, so you can use one set for many models, and they do not clog with dust so easily. Okay, that was the left side, now the right one. I had a problem finding proper tools for my Proxon, so I made a wooden organizer. I simply drill out a lot of holes into wooden plank. I have some cheap Chinese grinders, but I recently bought more original Proxon accessories, because they are usually made from harder steel and that last longer. In the plastic box I have some spare blades for hobby knife and some large drill bits. And I bought a new micro drill bit set yesterday, because it is easy to break them. And for scratch build models or modifications, I have plenty of lead and copper wires of different diameters. The new tool is also this box with the cutter bits. I will be capable to make some nice diorama frames or bases. And yet another door. This one contains paints for paintbrush. It is primarily for my wargaming miniatures, but also for hand paint details on other models. I use for paintbrush mostly acrylic colors because they are odorless and dry fast. Revel Aqua are nice, but white or yellow has bad coverage properties. The Citadel paints are excellent, but very expensive, so I decided to buy more Vallejo paints recently. And in the back I have some weathering products. I am more comfortable with mixing my fresh washes from oil paints, so I do not use them often. And finally, tools. I have a black box for quick access. It contains essential tools like hobby blades, sharp tweezers, razor saw and hand drill, and of course sharp scissors. The rest of the tools are Tamiya side cutters and cheap cutters for metal wires. In the back I have again tools, which I do not use often. Cutting compasses, metal files or spoon. And finally the last drawer. This one I do not use at all, because air hoses from airbrushes block easy access. I have there only more sandpapers, some plastic profiles and polishing compounds for cars. Oof, that is all. And maybe you are asking yourself, what about some diorama stock and kit collection? Voila! I know it is not the largest kit collection you ever saw, probably, but sometimes I feel like in a hobby shop, and it made me happy. I decided to stop buying more kits and rather build something what I already own. So if you have some wish for future build, you probably need to choose something from this. Anyway, I don't want to make 1 hour video about everything what I have, so now it's going to be only a glance look. The first shelf contains stuff for casting and molds. In the box are tools and parts for my bicycle, but also screwdrivers, handsaw and other necessary tools for repairing and apartment maintenance. The second shelf contains stuff and materials for dioramas. It is quite funny, but the stuff requires a lot of space. I have here primarily natural materials like dry grass, rotten wood or mosses and stones. In the box is static grass and more products for scenery. I have thinners and plenty of other chemicals in other boxes, but most of them are for cleaning and maintenance of my bicycles. And more chemicals. Here I have some acids for photo etch parts and different resins for casting. Various soldering iron and new ultrasonic cleaner, because the old one burned. I tried to repair it, but I accidentally blow out the fuses in the whole house. Funny story, indeed. The last but not least box contains electronics for some future models. I have a new iron generator for static grass applicator, and this one is 4 times more powerful than the old one, and also the size is slightly larger. In the last box is mainly garbage, and contains more materials for some scratch builds. I'm working on the new video how to cast like a professional. I mean almost like a professional, because as you can see I made a vacuum chamber from cooking pot. So it is prepared for more work. I told you the dioramas are crazy, so more material for them. You can see balsa wood planks and polystyrene primarily. It is funny that from this material you can make anything you want. So the only limitation is time and imagination. So that is my main cave. Lovely, isn't it? I hope you enjoyed this short walk around tour, and as usual, stay creative, thank you for watching and see you next time.